Mr. Speaker, the one thing that is lost on the government as we debate this issue is that there is a process that should have been gone through to come to an appropriate outcome. And it may be that some of the things the government says are true. There may be a case for a convention centre. There may be a case, and there may well be a case, for economic opportunity based around a convention centre in Auckland. There may well be a case for involvement by a whole lot of commercial entities. But the problem is we won't know because, as we know, no appropriate economic evaluation was done because there was only one bidder. And actually, when you look at Sky City, their job, they are a private sector entity. Their job for their shareholders is to get the best deal they can in any commercial negotiation. And I don't hold it against them for that. That is their job as a private sector commercial organisation. But you would hope that the job of the government in negotiating a deal with the private sector is to, one, do it appropriately, two, do it ethically, and three, do it with a bit of gumption. Because we know that when it comes to actually negotiating deals, whether it be Rio Tinto, where Bill English told us that the $30 million was a free gift in order to secure the jobs down south, and then we find out there is no jobs guarantee, and then bizarrely we find out he didn't even have the brains to ask for a jobs guarantee. Whether it's the negotiation over Meridian and MRP and the botch-ups, botch-up after botch-up, chorus, these guys over here could not negotiate their way out of a paper bag. Sky City must be sitting up there in Auckland going, ha, 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 didn't we do well? Inept. Because inept, as my colleague said, inept to the point of negligence. And I say, Maurice Williamson grins away, he knows it's true, he's negotiated the odd deal in his time. They should have put Maurice maybe in charge of this. Maybe in charge of this. He might have done a better job. But the job of ministers and the job of the government is to be responsible, to look after the public purse and get the best deal they can and protect our communities. Now, when you look at the process, my colleague, Mr Mallard, called Mr Young a toady. Well, there is a pattern. Was it not you? He toadied up. Well, there is a pattern when you look at the minority report that the Labor Party's put in and you look at the process that the Select Committee went through. Because the truth is, when the Select Committee and Labor and I think Green colleagues asked repeatedly for the Ministry of Health to come in directly and make a submission to us so we could ask questions directly of specialists in the Ministry of Health, not the gatekeepers in MB, Ministry of Health, the Gambling Commission, Internal Affairs, those entities and government agencies charged with policing and dealing with the problems around gambling per se, they were blocked at every occasion by Jonathan Young and his band of merry men, and they are all men. Blocked on every occasion. In fact, I can recall in the Select Committee that we wanted to send a letter to Stephen Joyce and ask him for some particular commercial data that we believed he held. He's entitled as a minister to say no, and he was entitled to do that. Jonathan Young, the lion in the Parliament and the lamb in the Select Committee, said no and blocked it on numbers. He would not even allow the committee to write to the minister and ask him for the information he had. Just ask him, not demand, ask, knowing of course that Stephen Joyce could and would say no. That's the amount of intestinal fortitude and bravery, and he's got a ton of it, sir, that member exhibited on the committee. Just like Solid Energy, when we asked for an inquiry, the toadies, and Trevor Mallard is right, the toadies, for whatever reason, their own political vanity and ambition, blocked every inquiry into that disaster. So they can't stand up here with any moral authority and say that they, as Select Committee members, just like their ministers, executed their duty and looked after those whom they purport to represent in government. And if I was Sky City, I'd be looking at it and go, what a bunch of amateurs. In fact, it was so embarrassing, of course, during some of the public hearings, when you look at Sam Lutuainga, who we now know, of course, his party electorate chairman rocked up, allegedly on behalf of the Catholic Church, said this was a fantastic deal, unbeknownst to the Catholic Church, the Pontiff, the Archbishop, and a few of the other hierarchy in the Catholic Church. Never even asked him a question for good reason, because he didn't want to admit that this is a very close personal friend of that member. Now, did he break any standing orders? No. Did he break any ethics? Yes.
Absolutely.
Does he have any moral authority to stand on this issue? No. And a number of those members, Jonathan Young and others, who railed against the gambling industry for years, but when Stephen Joyce comes a-calling, they just flip over, as my colleague said, and they're just marshalled into the stocks, like into the corral like a bunch of sheep. I asked Jonathan Young this, and he might want to ask his minister. Why did he block, if he believes that this proposal stands on its own economic feet, on its own ethical feet, and all the data stacks up, why did he block the officials from the Ministry of Health? No answer. Why did he block officials coming to us from Internal Affairs? Silence. Why did he refuse the committee even sending a letter to the minister to ask for some more information? If he was that worried, he couldn't even work out that the minister does have the power to say, no, it's commercially sensitive and I'm not going to give it to you. But why did he block, he and his merry men, even the committee even being allowed to send a letter? Pardon? Sorry? Leeks. He said leeks. I presume he's not referring to the vegetarian variety. Leeks. So let's get this straight. So the alibi for this, in not sending a letter, was the fact that the committee sent a letter to ask for information of a minister who could then refuse might leak. That's brilliant. That's genius. That's incredible.
Sweet peas.
If that's the best they can do over there to justify this, then there is a problem. The truth, sir, is that this was a deal done that the Auditor-General criticised. This was a deal done, slipped through, slick willy-like, the Prime Minister, just get it done, one tenderer, that'll be all we need to do. And I said, I think in the first reading, that in a way you can understand the Prime Minister coming from the private sector, as we all are from time to time, frustrated with bureaucratic processes. Because in the private sector, when your CEO says you've got the budget, do it on time, do it properly, and by the way, just don't bother me, just get it done fast, that is appropriate in the private sector because it's their money. And you do get, when you come into Parliament, aggrieved sometimes when you are a minister at the slowness, at the bureaucratical processes that you have to go through. That's fair enough. But you have to go through them because the difference is this is public money. This is public impact, or this is public benefit. It is taxpayer money. There has to be a higher and different degree of accountability and transparency when you're spending other people's dough as a minister, as a government, on behalf of taxpayers. So you can understand that frustration. But I say to the Prime Minister, he needs to temper his frustration because there is a proper process to go through. And his select committee members, his toadies and lackeys over there, did not represent their constituencies or their public well, because I believe they didn't want to know what submitters said, certainly if they were opposed to this deal. And they didn't want any evidence, any government agency, any specialist on behalf of the Crown to even come and question and raise issues and question any facet of the harm that could possibly be done, or even talk in general terms, take Sky City out of it, in general terms about the harm that gambling, excessive gambling causes. They didn't want it on the public record, and they think that that just papers over the cracks, they can get away with it, and it's all hidden. Well, the problem for Jonathan Young and the three at the back on the committee is this is a parliament. And these people are exposed, and the report exposes them, and we have such a thing called freedom of speech, and we can now debate it here. So the short-sighted stupidity of Mr Young in trying to hide it all, paper over the cracks, he didn't even have the gumption to realise, hang on, we're going to whip back in the chamber when the bill gets reported back, and it'll all come out anyway. Of course, he says. Well, that shows the ineptitude of that man over there. He couldn't even work that out, sir. So we're opposed to this bill, we're opposed to the process that it went through, and we're opposed to the disrespect that was shown not only submitters, but those good folk in the public service, those specialists who could have provided great background and fact as to the impact and negative impact of this bill.
I call Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Outside this chamber on the lawns of Parliament today, you